Next up is Troy's question. He says, the guys have a checklist for home and car buying, but do they have one for children? We're welcoming a baby soon, and I want to be in a good spot. How can we be financial mutants in this regard?
Oh, that's a good question.
Hey, Daniel, you got that kid checklist? Hey, how do I know
should we get that in the hopper?
How to have a kid? Money Guy checklist.
Hey,
MoneyGuy.com/resources.
what's the movie Mike Judge, Beavis and Butthead? But he also had the movie where the smart people quit having baby. Idiocracy.
Yeah.
And then the not so smart people, I'll use be nice, just kept growing. And it makes me think, because look, I'm older now. No, let me tell you my point on this is if you watch the opening part of that movie, the professional couple, they have like a video journal, and they keep coming with all the excuses why they didn't have kids.
Yeah.
And then then they get older, and then they're like, oh, now medically they can't have kids. And then that's the whole premise of the movie, is that people who are putting zero thought in this are multiplying substantially, and then people who are putting all the thought just are not having. And there is a population problem. I saw a stat this morning that typically, I think my generation, by the time you're 30, 60% of couples had babies.
And talking about Gen X?
Had one child.
Okay.
They don't have to be babies. But now that same stat is less than 27%, I think, was the stat. It's shifted.
Dang.
It's just that people... So there's definitely... I'm telling you as a 50-year-old, I wish I'd had another kid. I mean, I don't know if my wife would agree with that, but I think I've just gotten old and sentimental, and I've realized that I put so much effort into making sure financially I was the perfect situation to have a child, and I think that's what us financial mutants do. But now that I'm old and sentimental, I'm like, having one more wouldn't have been the worst thing in the world, because I get so much enjoyment out of making the memories. And yes, the messy middle is legit, where time is hard and you're like, how in the world am I going to make it through today? But then when you get older, you realize that it really is a tough job, but it has a lot of fruit that can come from it. And look, my journey's not even been the easiest. I have an autistic daughter, who we have some struggles with that, because the terrible twos lasted for it feels like 3 years while she was going through some of those things, because her developmental periods lasted a lot longer than the typical child does. And there's a sweetness to the parenting thing. Now, look, I'm going to tell you it's hard work, though. I'm not trying to candy coat this so I get you guys in a difficult situation, but I think it sets the table for Bo to tell you how to do it in a strategic way. But I'm just telling you, there's more than just the money part of it. Money's just a tool. And I think sometimes us financial mutants, we focus on only the nuts and bolts of the analytics. And I'm telling you, there's something else. And that's why I want to make sure I give you my wisdom so you can balance maximizing not only a life well lived, but also the financial decisions that need to go into that as well.
No, I love that, Brian. I had a wise older person tell me one time, they said, hey, if you wait until the time is perfect to have kids, you'll never have them, right?
Yeah.
And if you wait until you're ready, you'll never be ready, right? That's kind of this mindset around parenting. I have a question for you, Reby, and I want to know, because you have a young child. When you first had your son, were you was it unbelievable from a financial standpoint? Did it just wreck your life in terms of how expensive and crazy and all the finances? Or did you kind of have the baby and you're like, I got to buy diapers, I got to do this stuff, but it works, right?
It really does. I know that there are a lot of very different situations out there, but just even the generosity that a lot of people have when you have a baby, whether it's family or even just people letting us borrow stuff for because you only use certain things for little bits of time. But yeah, I've been really surprised that it's not that crazy if you don't want it to be.
That's right.
Because you
Love
can spend some serious money. I don't want to pretend. And then sometimes things happen where you do have to spend money. It's just like anything. That's why little things making sure your emergency reserves are good, or making sure you understand how your health insurance works. So what that's going to look like. But yeah, $50 a month on some diapers for one kid too. I don't know. I'm a fan. So I like the point that you came around to, Brian. Took us a second to get there, but I totally agree.
And I think so many people, they put it off because they think it's going to be this financially devastating thing. And while there will be additional costs, there will be additional expenses, I think, and I agree with you, that having a kid is so much more. Just starting a family is so much more than the finances, than checking the box. I mean, certainly there are things that you want to make sure you're doing. Ruby already mentioned them. You want to make sure that you've thought about the health insurance plan that you're on. If you're planning for a child and it's open enrollment, that you think about that. You want to make sure that you're following the financial order of operations. Brian, can you hold up the financial order of operations?
With the thick transparency.
But what we're not saying is, hey, don't have a kid until you're in step 8, or don't have a kid unless you've maxed out step number 5. That's not the thing that we're saying. If you are practicing sound financial management, you're going to figure out how to navigate and work through that. So it's really hard to give you a financial checklist of do these things before you have a kid, because I agree with Brian. I think it has to be more of a mental checklist. It has to be more of a, all right, have we thought through this? Have we begun with the end in mind? Have we talked about the family? Have we thought about what we want this to look like? Are we ready? How are our jobs? Are they stable? Are we in the place we want to be in? I think it's answering more of those questions than financially, have I done all these things exactly perfect? Because frankly, if you are prudent, if you approach it well, you can navigate the finances even when you do have an extra baby in the house.
Well, I think kids are amplifiers, though. So let's be honest about this, though. If you have a healthy relationship with your spouse, it can be awesome as an amplifier to that happiness and long-term fulfillment. But if you and your spouse have a horrible relationship, it can also amplify
Kids
that.
are not going to fix that.
So to make sure you're measuring twice, cutting once on, it's not all money. It's also on the foundation of the relationship, because kids are going to be an amplifier. If you have a lot of bad stuff in your couple relationship, kids don't necessarily fix that. But if there's a lot of love in the house, even if you don't have money, if you have more love than money, I talk about that all the time with what I grew up in, great parents. I think it can be a pretty sweet thing over the long term, because it amplifies that.
Yeah, I think your general life advice and your general like financial order of operations and money advice like already factor in that you can have a kid. You know, like you can get creative, you can budget appropriately, you can have your emergency reserves. Like it's all like, that's why one of the reasons why we give this advice, so you can go and do the things that you want to do. And kids are awesome. So I agree with Brian on that. Bambo.
Love it.